Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Golden Ratio Podcast. I am Jen, GR Mom, joined as always by GR Dad.
Hi.
How's it going, GR Dad?
Fine.
Excellent. The cocktail of the week this week is called The Long Dark Cloud.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's how my life feels these days.
For you, that's super dark since you're a naturally optimistic person.
No. It's dark rum, lemon juice, orgeat syrup, pineapple juice, and Angostura bitters.
For
It's
me,
pretty good.
that's
Look,
just
there's one
Monday.
right there.
Monday.
Right there.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
When GR Dad and I were taking flying lessons for a while, every time GR Dad tried to fly, it didn't work. Like, I would fly, and we'd land the plane, and GR Dad would get in the cockpit,
Something
and
would
then
fall off.
like the propeller wouldn't work, or there'd be a storm coming in, and so our flight instructor started calling him Dark Cloud,
Which is an awesome handle.
or was it Black Cloud?
Black Cloud?
Black Cloud.
I'm like the curse of the plane.
It's a cool name.
was so
I
good.
never got a cool
There was
nickname.
like 3 times in a row where it was like, it was
Yeah.
fine for you, and then not for me.
Yeah. Finally, I was like, just letting go. Does it look like it's gonna go? Letting go first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Black Cloud. Anyway, this is the Long Dark Cloud. That's what it's called.
Monday. It's just, or Monday.
Man, life in the Golden Ratio household is tough this week.
Nobody likes to sleep as much as we do.
Ugh.
Let me clarify. Voods doesn't sleep he's like an infant. I think he gets most of his sleeping in the day, and then at night he's restless.
So when we did the podcast last week, Voods had a seizure. He may have had 2 seizures by the time of the podcast, but he had another seizure that night, and that's not good. That, like, having multiple seizures in a 24-hour period is not good. That's called a cluster seizure. And when we were starting to, like, get him regulated, he would often have them like 12 hours apart. He'd have one, and then he'd have another one, and that would be it. He had never had 3 like that.
Yeah.
And so that was worrying. And then he went about 24 hours. So that was Thursday. Thursday, he had the 3 seizures. The last one was at like 11:30. And then Friday, we were like, okay, everything's okay. And then at about 11:30 Friday night, he had another one. And it was short.
Yeah.
When he starts having the seizures, and I say this every time, but I can't really emphasize the horror of it, he starts screaming. Like, imagine you're dissecting a dog alive. That's the sound.
It's screaming.
It's full-throated.
I mean, it's like a human.
Screaming.
Which is why we're a little worried that the neighbors are calling 911.
I have warned all the neighbors. I'm like, if you hear this sound, like, that's what it is. But it triggers like a real visceral horror in me just to hear the sound, just to think about the sound. And so he had one of these. I mean, all of them are like this. So he had 3 on Thursday, including one at like 11:30. And then Friday night, he had one at 11:30. And then at about 3 a.m. on Saturday morning, so just a few hours after the Friday night one, we woke up and he was having another one. And then as soon as it stopped, he started having a second one. So this has happened once before. This is how dogs die from seizures. So I think it's called status epilepticus. And it just basically means they don't leave the seizure state. And he had one of these before, and he had 4 in a row. And, you know, they don't breathe when they're seizing. And so
it's all clenched up, right? It's like the whole body's like a fist.
Yeah. So there's no breathing. They can have heart attacks. They can have strokes. They can just die from not breathing. It's super dangerous. And so when this had happened last time, which was like almost it was shortly after we got him, probably November or December, our vet at the time had given us this benzodiazepine. Basically, it's Versed, which you may have heard of. It's an anesthetic that they'll use. And she gave us
an EpiPen for
yeah,
for epilepsy.
It's a syringe with a little cone on the end, and you squirt this stuff into their nose to interrupt the seizure. And we have had this pen every time he's had a seizure since then. It's like, get the pen out, because if he has a second one, we have to give him the thing. And it's always been like our go-to emergency backup. And so we got the pen out and had to do the thing after the second seizure on 3 a.m. on Saturday, which thankfully did stop them. But then we're out of We got nothing.
We got no backup.
Nothing at that point.
Yeah.
No emergency vet down in the Keys here now. There was one, and who knows what happened. They were open and really busy. Like, that wasn't the problem. But they have been closed, I think, since March, trying to find a new location. There's all kinds of rumors about how that's going to work out, but they're not open now. The closest emergency vet to us is Miami, which is a 3-hour drive away.
Closest is that'd be another state in most places.
Yeah. And so, fortunately it's a Saturday and not a Sunday. If it was a Saturday, we would have just gotten in the car and gone up to Miami, but we would have gotten to Miami at 6 a.m. Our vet opens at 7
on Saturdays.
Saturday, and every day, except Sundays. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, let's hope he holds on until 7. So I just stayed up pacing around the house, looking at him, until, it's one of the only times I think where I've literally just been like looking at the clock, willing minutes to pass. And, so, at around 6 o'clock I left. It's about 45 minutes to the vet, and we're standing out in front of the vet at 6:45. And as soon as they opened, they brought us in. They kept him all day on seizure watch, which is great, because then they have a IV, like a catheter line in him, right?
They have a lot of backup.
Yeah, so they can, if he were to start having a seizure, knowing that he's had 6 of them basically in the last 2 days, they have Versed, this medicine which they can give intravenously. They've got other meds they can give intravenously. They can do much more than we can with our one pen, our one syringe of this stuff. So fortunately, he didn't have any other seizures while he was there all day. They kept him all day Saturday. But our vet did talk to a neurologist up in Miami who's like, well, that dose of phenobarbital he's on isn't doing a damn thing for him. So they gave him IV phenobarbital, and which is the medicine that we had kind of accidentally cut back and thought he was doing okay on. But obviously that's what triggered this whole thing, is that he kind of went 3 weeks with too low a dose and was sort of hanging on until it wasn't enough. So they gave him some IV of that, IV of Keppra, which is it's a drug that he takes in pill form, but they also can give it in IV, and it's actually a pretty safe. Like phenobarbital it's really rough on certain parts of the body, but Keppra is pretty safe, and so they gave him some of that IV. We have increased him. So before all of this unintentional experimentation, up through like last month, he was getting 100 milligrams of phenobarbital once a day. Now he's on it twice a day. So you'll see he's much more wobbly than...
He seems a little woozier, yeah.
Yeah, it's some pretty intense medicine he's on. He's also on extra doses of the Keppra, so he's getting it 3 times a day instead of 2. But he's stable. So we're recording on Monday night. He hasn't had any seizures since we brought him to the vet.
I'm going to knock on wood. It's going to be annoying, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
But it's, I certainly, I don't know how much you like every sound he makes, and that is a dog who makes a lot of noise.
Well, this is the problem, right? He's weird anyway, right? He makes weird noises. He gets bored. He's like a little inscrutable, and the beginnings of a seizure are the little weird noises and kind of twitchiness, and he has that anyway.
Yeah. It'll be 1 or 2 short noises, and then the screaming begins. But now he makes little noises all the time, and so every time there is one, I'm just super on edge with everything.
Yeah.
So it sucks, because we're sort of powerless. Like, we've got him on all the medicine we can have him on. They gave us a new backup syringe of the Versed, which usually will interrupt it, but
he'll still have had a seizure. I mean,
we don't want him to have any more
seizure. You're right. Yeah.
And it's really worrying having so many close together, even though it's quite obvious why, right? Like, we reduced his phenobarbital. We had tried to reduce it before. So if you go back to the podcast of like November, December, when we were trying to regulate his meds, we were cutting back his phenobarbital. He was on I think he was on it twice, 100 milligrams twice a day, and we had cut it back to once a day, and it was fine.
That was fine for a year. I mean,
Well, no. When we were first adjusting it,
well.
I mean, you may not have, like, I was just putting the pills out, so you may not even have known the schedule, but we had cut him back to once a day, and then we had cut him back to every other day. We were trying to wean him off the phenobarbital altogether, thinking he might not need it. And when we got him down to the every other day, which was averages out to close to what he was on after accidental switch here, he had a couple more seizures. And so we we got him back on just the 100 milligrams once a day. But we know when he gets below the once a day that he had seizures before. And so now, it wasn't exactly the same thing, but it was basically a lower dose. And like lo and behold, he has more seizures. So we know why. It's not that like his epilepsy has gotten worse. And all the seizures he's had pretty much have been because a medicine has been dropped off, either because we have been trying, can we lower this dose of this medicine? Or, once we ran out of one.
He puked it out once.
So anytime that he's on, people have been trying to be helpful in suggesting medicines that he can be on. If you listen to the podcast, you know that that's not helpful, and it really just makes me angry. I have muted you if you've offered me this advice because I just don't want to hear it. But, I've talked on Twitter about his phenobarbital, and people are like, oh, there's potassium bromide, or there's, Keppra. He's on every epilepsy drug right now. He's on all of them. There's no other epilepsy drugs to give him because he's on all of them, and he's on pretty high doses of all of them. So I don't need any more suggestions, unless you're a vet, in which case, please DM me. I'm happy to talk to you, but I don't need your experience with your dog. I also really don't need to hear about your dog who died from their epilepsy. I know you're trying to be sympathetic, and it's incredibly not helpful. So I know plenty of people whose dogs have died from epilepsy, and it's not great for me to hear those stories right now.
What does he have, 14 pills a day? Something like that? 14, 16? 14, I think.
5, 6, 7, 8, 16.
Yeah, and for a while it was more because we had different, dosages.
Yeah,
it's just a handful. It's a fat handful of pills. It feels like a pharmacy.
Yeah, the Keppra he's on, which is a great epilepsy medicine. We have 750 milligram pills, but we've had people whose dogs have died from their epilepsy who have given us their leftovers, and somebody gave us 250 milligram pills, which is great. So he has to take 6 of those in the morning. For a while it was
four of the other kind. Yeah. Two of the other kind.
So many.
That was a morning dose.
Yeah. So anyway, it's real tough with Boots right now.
Yeah, and he's weird. I mean, he's not as bothered by it as we are, right? I mean, that's the only good thing, is that he doesn't worry. He's just like, do. My worst problem is that I'm bored.
Yeah, he does seem a little more bored than usual, but it's interesting though. He had the 3 seizures on Thursday, and then Friday, he didn't have any all day, but he was very much not normal. So when they have a seizure, after the seizure, it's called the post-ictal phase, and a lot of times they're blind after the seizure, temporarily blind. They'll run into things. They're just super confused. My dog Kay, who had seizures, would get kind of aggressive. She'd growl if anyone would come near.
That's the worst.
It was really scary.
She didn't recognize you.
No. I mean, she would growl and show her teeth. So we had to lock her in a room. That's actually why, the baby gate we have in Maryland, we got because of her seizures. So we could lock her away so she wouldn't, bite anybody, basically. Right. So Vooch doesn't get aggressive, but he walks in circles and he'll bump into stuff, and you can just tell he's really confused.
You can tell he's very surprised to see everybody.
Yes, super surprised.
It is. I mean, we had this back and forth. It is like he had a reset. His brain is restarting.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Who are you again?"
It's oh, you smell interesting. A lot of that. Yeah. He was like that all day on Friday. Really not himself, very confused. I had gotten up kind of in the early hours of Friday morning, so he hadn't had a seizure. He'd had one at 11:30 p.m. and this was 4 a.m. and he hadn't had a seizure, but he'd made some sound. But we were in the kitchen, and he was just walking in circles and circles and circles. That's not a thing that he does. So no. He was kind of in this limbo state on Friday before he went into the really bad seizures. He's not like that now. He seems much more like his normal self. Yeah, a little more bored and whiny about it. He makes a lot of sounds. And you'll definitely see like his back legs aren't as coordinated as they were. This is how he was before.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to take him up to the neurologist in Miami. Just our vet here was great. Like she called them, she gave us their number. So it's just a purely neurology clinic, but they're on call 24/7. So they have regular hours. But if your dog has a seizure, she's like, you just call them. If he has a seizure in the middle of the night, especially if he's got like a, 2 in a row, you give him that medicine and then you call these guys and they'll tell you what to do.
That's helpful.
It's really nice. Yeah. So they're like in my phone now. Jared, the paper is right over there if anything happens when I'm not here. But we're going to go up there and see them to kind of have a relationship with them. And, always good to have a backup, because dogs who get this status epilepticus, I am embarrassed as a scientist that I haven't learned how to say that word right, but where they have these seizures just one right after the other without a pause, they have like a 30% less chance of survival than dogs with other kinds of epilepsy. And the last thing, they just get stuck in that seizure and they die. And like the horror of that, like I can't even think about. We really don't want that to happen. So having a neurologist and like all kinds of backup things that we can do would be great. And also hopefully our emergency vet here will reopen soon, and then we have a shorter drive to get him hooked up somewhere.
It's been rough. I mean, the only glass half full thing is that this didn't happen a month ago when he had a bum leg. And like he was already super shaky and had to balance on one leg in the back, and he would have just been an invalid. At least now he can walk. He can go down the stairs now. He doesn't like to. He likes me to carry him, but he can.
So that's the Vood situation. And if that were the only thing going on, it would be tough here.
That would just be a Tuesday.
But it's not. So Hops, her leg is so sore. We're taking her back to the vet on Friday. That was the first appointment they had for her. I'm going to see if anything else opens up this week. And then if they're, they may, so for the thing she has, it's called a hygroma, which we've talked about. Like the standard treatment is those elbow pads that she has now. It's been 3 weeks. If anything, it's worse than it was.
Certainly not better.
So they used to do surgery, or they used to drain these hygromas because it's a buildup of fluid in the joint. That it's generally discouraged because it's really hard to heal surgery on a bendy joint like an elbow, because it bends all the time.
Yeah.
And they get the hygroma in the first place because an injury isn't healing there. So it's not like the surgeries have a lot of risks that go with them. Like you can't close the skin over the elbow because then they bend their elbow.
And it breaks back open.
And it opens again. But a lot of hygromas are painless. They're just big lumps. Hers is very painful for her. So we may end up, maybe our vet will be like, okay, well, like let's do some surgery. We may end up taking her up to Miami to see an orthopedic vet to see what they can do. But I've talked to our vet here and been like, she's in a ton of pain. And they're like, well, we can do cold laser, we can do acupuncture, we can do all these things, which are like fine suggestions for like arthritis, but this is a pretty acute situation.
Yeah.
So the poor girl is in a lot of pain, and there's kind of nothing we can do. And if those were the only two things, that would be a tough time in the household. But
the only good thing about Hops is she's lighter than Boots. I carry both of them
You
down
can
the
see that
stairs.
Jared's entire focus of our current health status is his carrying of dogs.
Who can I pick up and how long? For how long?
So Remy was supposed to have his exam on Thursday for his eye surgery, and then this coming Thursday, September 9th, is when his surgery was supposed to be. But I think I had said in the short podcast that I did that I talked to the ophthalmologist, and she's like, his blood sugar's too high. we looked at his urinalysis and there's glucose in there, and that means his blood sugar's too high. So we're not going to do the surgery until that's under control. Take him to your vet to do a glucose curve instead of you just doing one at home. And once that's under control.
We did a short podcast after I came back with that update. Yep.
So we took him last Thursday to the vet, and we drop him off there in the morning, and they keep him all day, and they take his blood sugar every hour. And in between when I had talked to the ophthalmologist and we brought him in for the glucose curve, he had started on thyroid medicine because he has hypothyroid. So the last blood glucose curve we did before he started the thyroid medicine, it was kind of in the mid 300s. The lowest I think it got was 186. On Thursday, we dropped him off at the vet, and it had been about a week since we started the thyroid medicine. His high value was like 185, and it was like 60 at one point, and it was 40 at one point. These are super low, very...
What's a normal person? I'd be around 100, right?
As around 100, so 80 would be as low as you want it to get.
But my body regulates itself around 100. Ideally. Right, if I'm not diabetic.
There's a range, though.
Yeah,
I mean, like if you eat...
Fair.
If you eat, it's going to be...
Sugar crash or whatever.
Higher. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to go down to 40.
Right.
But it's not going to be right at 100 all the time.
Yeah, it won't get to 300, presumably.
It should not.
40,
You would have a problem if it did.
Yeah.
So anyway, 40, very bad, can be very dangerous. If your blood sugar gets too high one time, nothing all that bad happens. If he does it a bunch over time, all kinds of bad things happen. But and your blood sugar won't get super high if you don't have diabetes. But if it gets too low, you can go into a coma and die. It's really bad.
Your body runs out of energy,
sugar.
Right?
Yeah. So it got so low at the vet that she's like, I didn't feel like I needed to give him a straight glucose boost, basically like eating candy. They just give him sugar water basically. I mean, they can do it IV, or if you have a diabetic dog and their blood sugar drops, you can put like maple syrup or honey on their gums and they'll absorb the sugar that way to if they can't, that's like if they're so lethargic they can't swallow. She's like, we just gave him some food to help bring it back up. She's like, so we decreased his insulin by 2 units. So we brought it back down. I mean, that's quite a bit from where it was. He was getting 18, now he's getting 16. It doesn't matter how much that is. It's just, we kind of started, I think, at 15, and then we went to 16, and then 17, and then 18 because we couldn't get it low enough. And then, with this thyroid medicine, and so he's been down at 16 since Thursday night. And we've been taking his blood sugar in the afternoon, and it was like 39 today. So he's getting afternoon snacks, which make him very happy. The good news is that he's not acting lethargic or bad, but it's really dangerous for it to get that low. So it's like a thing that we have to really keep a constant eye on. And the hope is that, he'll settle in with the thyroid medicine and this new insulin level. We may have to decrease the insulin some more, though. And so, it's requiring a lot of attention. Plus, he's still extremely needy. He
has a love deficit.
He's just got his face right in my face.
He does.
All the time. And then, of course, we have the base level anxiety of Chief Brody, which is quite high and requires some pretty active management every day.
Especially around dinner time.
Yeah.
Before dinner time.
Starting 3:30, 4 o'clock. And Guac is like a pretty good boy, but he also actually kind of needs a lot of attention. He's got his own love deficit, and he's more mellow about it. So Vink is the only good dog right now.
Poor little Vink. And she's decided she's going to cope by swimming laps more.
Vink, thank you for being so chill.
She's like, I need some alone time. I'm going to float around here for a while.
Not demanding, not resentful, just thank you, Vink.
She gets an award.
So
she's just chubby. That's not terrible. That's her vice. We're the only thing going on right now. It wouldn't be that bad.
Things are pretty overwhelming. I guess maybe just for me. Jared Dad seems much less overwhelmed than I am. But I'm Jared Dad throws Guac's ball at night, which normally I'm like, stop throwing his goddamn ball in the house. And 2 days ago I was like, do not touch that goddamn ball again, I will not have dogs skittering around this house.
In your defense, it freaks out Remy.
It gets
because
everybody
Remy's
all
like,
riled
what
up.
is this big skittering, and can I play too? Because Remy's getting play. I mean, the whole thing is very
Disruptive.
anti-vibe, disruptive. Yes.
Anyway.
I understand.
I am very stressed.
Guac has me under mind control. It's bad. I'm a, roasty of a human.
It's a good thing that we didn't have human children. Aside from the fact that I would hate being a mother to human children, our parenting styles, I never parented Jaredad's daughter. We never lived together. I never had to do any parenting of her. Thank God. We would have been divorced, I think, if we had tried to do that.
Yeah, that would have been a short one.
It would have been real bad.
We had an understanding.
No, I mean, it was a very explicit understanding where I was like, this is not going to work. Like, I don't want to do it. She doesn't want me to do it. I don't care what you want. Like, it won't work if that happens.
Right.
I am not going to parent that. I mean, you never wanted me to parent her, but I was way before we agreed to get married. It was like, so this is never going to be a thing. And
we didn't even have 6 dogs back then.
It wouldn't have mattered. Would not have mattered. We could have had 0 dogs. Our parenting styles, even with the dogs, are quite different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a little easier to manage with dogs, but if we had a human child, man, I'd be like, stop letting it do everything.
Yeah,
like, tell it no.
I mean, I'll let Voodoo lie out for 10 minutes or something. I mean, you get drastic with Foods if he's outside. I just learned.
No. So yeah, let me relay this story with the full background.
This was news to me.
With the full background of how stressful everything is. And let me also add some background that your dad and I have had a conversation.
I know.
About coconuts. So we have the coconuts that you see the dogs with all the time. These are unhusked coconuts, the big ones as they fall off the tree. Great dog choice. Once you husk the coconuts and get into the delicious coconutty meat part on the inside, on the coconut water, the dogs also believe that this is delicious. Even when they're kind of rotten coconuts, which is one of the foulest smells on the planet.
Some of those that wash up are automatically that.
And so your dad and I have had a conversation before. I was like, hey.
Right. This is not going to go well for
no,
me.
It's not, but you went there, so we're telling the story.
I'm getting the boomerang effect here. This is very bad. I opened the box.
So I was like, dear dad, no husked coconuts for the dogs, because they get like obsessive, especially Guac and Voods, but all of them, about getting to the coconut. Even with all the meat out of it, like, they can tell that taste is there, or if like the coconut water spills on the ground, they're sniffing the ground constantly. Do not give this to them. It just makes life really hard. This was like a 9-month ago conversation. Dear Dad husked a bunch of coconuts yesterday, and I believe some were just left on the ground.
I just piled them up. I mean, I will admit, I just put them on the ground. I didn't give them to anybody. I just made a pile.
Guac also got one that was like husked and
that was broken.
It was broken, yeah. But there was like the full cut all the way through. Like, normally the husk comes off, and then there's the coconut like you see at the store. Yeah. So they were all obsessive about those yesterday, and I was like, God damn it! I don't want to have coconuts. And you were like, yeah, there's this one coconut was like leaking, and they thought it was really interesting, and I was like, I'm not gonna be a jerk. I'm not gonna be the naggy wife who bitches. It's fine. And so I'm in bed last night at like 12:30, and I'm like, I am so tired. I am so drained. I have fresh sheets. I'm just going to go to sleep. And then Vood starts making noise. And I was like, I will take him out. Fine, I will take him out. And Vood's is a pain in the ass when we take him out, because a lot of times he's like, I'm going to lay in the grass. And no, I will not come in when you call me. He does not come.
No, he's like
the only way that we can get him to come in is to tempt him with chicken snacks. And we say, Vood's foods, which you certainly hear us say on the snaps.
And that works about 85% of the time.
And you sometimes have to be really persistent. And sometimes even then he won't come. And so I let him out last night, and he lays down where the coconut water has spilled out of a coconut, and there is a coconut on the ground.
Yeah, it's on me.
I am mostly naked because I was in bed. I have wrapped myself up in a towel or something so I can go outside just in case there's a late night dog walker that I'm not going to be naked in the yard. But I'm not dressed.
There's mosquitoes.
There's mosquitoes crawling all over my body. Vodes is eating a goddamn coconut that I said he shouldn't have. And so I take the coconut away, and he's like, this ground is like coconut ground. He will not come. I'm like, here, let me display this rich of chicken snacks to you. Would you like these? And he's like, no, it's coconut over here. And so I'm like, I'm seething at GR Dad. He's not down there.
No, I'm in bed.
He's in bed.
Which didn't help my case. Admittedly bad.
And he put these coconuts out for the dog. And he was like, isn't it funny? There's
Then he went
like
to
earlier
bed.
in the day. It's funny. There's like this leaky coconut, and they all think it's great. And I'm like, Voods, come on, Voods, come on. So when Voods refuses to come, even in the face of snacks, the only way to get him to move, because I can't pick him up. Like, you can stand him up, and then he just flops back down.
Right.
I'm not strong enough to, like, just lift and carry.
It's a risky maneuver.
Yeah. So I found at one point that if I took like the Manchego wagon and just ran it into Voods,
Like bonk, bonk,
Yeah.
bonk,
yeah,
bonk.
would like run it around it, circle him, and then like run it into him sometimes, he'd get pissed off enough that he'd stand up and start walking. And I can't always get the wagon because I'm barefoot and our yard is full of rocks. And so sometimes I can only get into the little first level
Things
enclosure.
are real desperate that late at night too. It's not good.
Oh, yeah.
I am sorry. I feel bad.
So I'm in this position with Guac last night. Cut to this afternoon where Jared Dad's like, why is that shovel outside? And I was like, I was using that to hit Voods to get him to come in last night. And Jared Dad's like, that's a funny joke. Why is it actually out there? And I was like, no, Ingo. He wouldn't come in. So I got the goddamn shovel and started hitting him with it.
I'm surprised the whapping didn't wake me up.
I mostly just wave the shovel around and then occasionally like tap him on the butt with it. I don't actually beat him with it. I don't even smack. I just make a lot of movement with the shovel
And poke.
then sometimes he gets a quite gentle nudge with it. Yeah, I've used a broom, a rake. I used the sledgehammer once.
You've used your foot, I'm sure.
Oh, the foot doesn't do anything. He just like flops over. No, I need equipment.
Oh my God, the foot doesn't do anything?
No, he's like, I'm going to lay on your foot now. Thanks for the massage.
Ooh, you jerk.
So I finally,
Thanks for the massage.
Yeah.
He's a psycho.
with the assistance of the shovel, get him back into the elevator. After like 10 minutes of
Wait,
this.
back up.
Yeah.
Did I hear the word sledgehammer 3 or 4 sentences ago?
I have used all kinds of implements, including the sledgehammer. Yes, I kind of thump the sledgehammer on the ground around Voods, and he can feel the vibrations, and then occasionally tap him with the sledgehammer. Yeah.
Like those geological explosions they do for like seismic experiments.
Look, desperate times, desperate measures.
A sledgehammer. You just grab stuff blindly.
Whatever.
You just grab for a handle, and then you're like, "Ooh,
Yep,
this is
what
60
I'm
pounder."
using. Yep. So I finally get Voods upstairs, and I walk into the bedroom, and I was like, Jen, you have to be calm. He didn't mean for you to be outside with Voods like that, naked and mosquito bitten, in the middle of the night when you're so stressed out. And I was like, Ingo, we talked about it before, and I told you not to give the dogs coconuts, and I cannot have you giving the dogs coconuts anymore because they will not come in. And he's like, you okay?
I didn't know all this stuff last night. Man, this is terrible. I feel worse than I did.
I
1
don't
in the
make
morning.
requests unless I feel like they're really important.
Oh,
Everything's also just extremely overwhelming right now.
yeah. Anyway, that was the shovel.
Yeah. How do you think you came out of that funny story about the shovel?
Not smelling so good.
It's fine. But please don't give them coconuts anymore.
Noted.
Anyway.
That's the dog update. Good, bad, mostly bad, except for Vink. Yay, Vink.
Yeah.
Yay.
So,
Even Brody looks somewhat normal right now, even though he's a freak also.
the thing is, like, I just don't need his, like, really aggressive. I mean, I get that he just kind of has panic attacks mid-afternoon, and he really needs the soothing. Like, there's nothing to do about it. But, man, it just is hard on top of everything else. Like, today, it's Labor Day, right? Like, nobody at work was emailing me. Like, we didn't have any work to do around the house. And all I did all day was soothe dogs,
Yeah.
basically.
Because they were in your face to be soothed. Yeah.
And usually 2 at a time.
Yeah. Well,
It's-
because one gets there and then the other one tries to muscle in between you and
Yeah,
the dog.
especially Remy, who's like, oh, I sense you're on the ground with another dog, so I will come and stand on top of you and put my face in your face. It's just a lot right now. If it made sense to like fly 3 people down here and just assign them to be helpers, like 1 person per room, we're just going to cycle dogs in. So you get like half an hour with Hops and then half an hour with Remy. And then there's like a room.
You don't just say these things.
Hey, I know we'd have like 1,000 volunteers.
We got an RV. We could just have people in line outside. There could be a line of cars like a school drop-off.
Ugh.
Everyone's waiting for their half hour.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay, Hops, time to go down to the RV where, like, Allison is going to play with you for the next half hour.
And the weird thing is we would pay for it. Even though that's contrary to how it could work.
All right. That's dog updates. By next week, hopefully we'll have a solution for Hops. Hopefully Voods will be remaining seizure-free. We'll have some updates on Remy's blood sugar, whatever.
Vink may have lost some weight.
Vink's fine. Okay. Girdad has chosen 3 Taste of the Keys, and so I said I would do the German word of the week. The German word of the week is Brot. Brot, which just means bread.
Yeah.
And I bring it up because there's this, it's not a cartoon. It's like a Muppets.
Yeah, it's a puppet.
It's like called Bernd das Brot.
Bernd das Brot.
So Bernd is his name.
He's on a kids channel.
Yeah. It's an anthropomorphic bread. Loaf of bread, not sliced loaf.
He's got teeny tiny T-Rex arms, and his name is Bernd.
And he last time we went to Germany, he came on like late in the evening. Like,
he's after the sign off of that channel. They just put him.
Yes, he comes on Bernd das Brot, and he's sort of a European existential nihilistic loaf of bread.
Yes.
He talks about how his life is meaningless.
He tries to kill himself, but the director won't let him.
Yeah, he does try to kill himself.
Tries to escape. They won't let him.
Yeah.
He's trapped.
His life is torture.
It's very funny.
It is the most bizarre thing.
It's weird because it's a channel that during the day has its Kika. It's Kinderkanal. It's the kids channel. So it'll have, the Smurfs and all this other stuff. Like Nickelodeon. But then at night it changes into Adult Swim. After sign off, and it just has Bernd das Brot. It's like a 5-minute loop or something, right? It's just the same skit, but it's him mostly being put in some weird situation that he's trying to get away from.
Yeah.
And it's surreal. It's always surreal.
Oh, super surreal. You can watch it on YouTube. Just look for Bernd das Brot.
Bernd das Brot. With it Bernd. Bernd.
Yeah. Kind of like Bernard the bread.
Yeah.
Bernd das Brot.
Because that is never questioned, the fact that he's a talking bread. It's just he's in the position that he's in, and the position is absurd, but he is like expected to be normal.
He's kind of a newscaster sometimes.
Yeah, he's on a game show. They force him to be on a game show host.
Yeah. And he's always a little confused why he's there and really upset and despairing. And
trying to get out. But this the omnipresent voice is telling him, nope, you're stuck in here. Mm-hmm. You better put on a good show or something.
And there's a lot of sighing.
Yeah, and he tries to run out of the left of the screen, but then he scrolls back into the right, and it's just a cruel trick.
We'll link a YouTube version of it.
It's bizarre. I think it's funny.
I don't think it's funny. It makes me kind of sad, but it's weird for sure. Yeah. Anyway, Brot is a really good word to know because like bread, delicious, an important part of life.
Big thing in Germany.
Yeah.
Better than in France. Although, I would apologize to all French people who believe their bread is better, but German bread is better.
I'm married to you, my German love, and the French make way better bread.
Oh my goodness.
The French bread.
Such disloyalty.
I'm sorry. Have you had a croissant in Paris?
Fait. Take it or leave it.
Okay.
The baguettes are clearly superior in France than anywhere else.
Thank you.
The French have good bread. Germans have better breads.
Okay. All right. Go for triple taste of the keys.
Keys a palooza.
There's so much keys news.
Keys a stravanza.
Go for it. I'm getting a drink.
All right. I'm going to go in increasing order of interesting.
I'm excited, Geodad.
Weirdness. So the first one is, I thought, this is the headline. Well, this is the lead. When a Lamborghini caught fire in downtown Key West recently, people were left puzzled. The island may be a legendary party town, but it doesn't see a lot of burning sports cars. So here comes Gregorio Darian Castellanos, a.k.a. rapper Risky Blunt.
Risky Blunt. Wait, where is rapper Risky Blunt from, Ingo?
He's of Sugarloaf Key. He's 22 years old.
Wait, he's from Sugarloaf? I thought he was from Stock Island.
He was born in Stock Island, but he's of Sugarloaf
Wait,
Key.
he lives on our key? Risky Blunt lives on our key?
Yes. Yes. And you'd think you would, like...
Risky Blunt.
See his Lamborghini.
In the hood.
Yes, yes.
There's no Lamborghinis on Sugarloaf Key. I know every car in Sugarloaf Key, and there's no Lamborghini.
So Castellanos, I'm going to call him Risky Blunt. Risky Blunt has videos of him behind the wheel of the Italian luxury sports car. And also some of firefighters extinguishing the blaze videos. I think these are on his phone. He says he plunked down $2,200 to rent it for 24 hours for a video shoot. But the car's owner, Alex Perez, said he let Risky Blunt borrow the car. It wasn't rented, Perez says. He's a good friend of mine, Perez said. I let him borrow it for a photo shoot. I thought it'd be a cool idea. Perez says the Lambo is at his home in Marathon, and he's awaiting news from the insurance company.
There is a Lamborghini in Marathon.
It's burnt.
Oh.
It's burned up.
Okay, well, thanks to Risky Blunt. Is it Risky Blunt? Is that the name?
It is Risky Blunt, yes.
I mean, he's pretty risky.
Yes, yes. He also goes by his middle name, Darian, sometimes.
Risky Darian Blunt?
Or just Darian? I don't know. Like
okay.
Rapper, one name rapper name. Anyway, so as a lawyer, I'm now instantly thinking, why are they making this distinction between renting it and not? Because who has insurance and who's going to pay for it? I bet that Perez's insurance company wouldn't pay for it if it were rented. So he's saying, I let him borrow it for a photo shoot. I thought it'd be a cool idea. Then the insurance company might pay. If a guy pays $2,200 to rent it for 24 hours, the insurance company might not pay. Total surmise on my part. I do not know.
Nice.
Anyway, Perez, the owner of the Lambo, burnt, said, it happened on my birthday. Imagine that. I love that car. I love this reporting. I think it's Gwen.
Is that Gwen Fialosa?
I think
for the Miami
so.
Herald?
I think so,
If it's
yeah.
Keys News in the Herald, it's her.
From the Herald. It is Gwen Fialosa, yes. Yeah. Bless her for getting all these quotes.
She's great.
She is. Perez thinks it was the muffler that caught fire. Those cars are known for the muffler to get on fire, he said.
Oh.
I don't even understand how it happened, Risky Blunt said during an interview while seated at Beards and Brews Bar and Barbershop. Link provided an article, which he helped open with his family in January. Before the fire, a friend drove by him and jokingly told him, don't blow that car up. Next, the rapper said he was tooling around in the Lambo when he made a right turn on Fleming Street. This is a car you believe is flat, a Lamborghini.
A Lamborghini is the flattest of cars.
When he made a right turn on Fleming Street, saying he was going 25 miles per hour, he was going 25 miles. Thank you, Gwen. That's good. And yes, he has driven one before, along with a Ferrari and a Rolls Royce.
Oh, nice. I've driven a Lambo before, and I will have you know.
And a Rolls Royce. Yeah, that's the ticket. That's when a man on a bicycle told him the car was on fire. Very Key West.
So Key West.
Yeah.
All of these are very, very Keysy stories.
Risky Blunt jumped out and called the fire department. Key West firefighters were called at 12:05 p.m., so middle of the day. They found a silver Lamborghini with smoke coming from the engine in the back, according to the incident report.
Silver Lamborghini. I had it a different color.
Yeah, well, you think yellow or red, right?
Orange.
Yeah, orange. Yeah. Interesting. Orange.
We'll talk more about that.
The fire was unintentional and the cause undetermined, according to the fire department's report. Due to the vehicle exhaust being located near the area of origin, overheating cannot be ruled out as a cause of the fire, Captain Jason Barrasso, the fire inspector, wrote in the report.
Okay.
Risky Blunt said, I'm happy I didn't die. He says insurance will cover the damage. Oh, he was born in Miami but raised on Stock Island, which is just outside of Key West.
Yep.
Risky graduated from Key West High School and then became a licensed barber. But hip-hop music is his main focus, and he says he's Miami-based. He owns his own label.
But he lives on Sugarloaf?
His label's called Risky. He lives on Sugarloaf, yes.
All right, look. There's like, you can get some real cred from being Miami-based. You get zero hip-hop or rap cred from living on Sugarloaf Key.
I don't know what that's like. That's like living in Westchester or something if you're
It's
from
not
New York.
even. It's a goddamn island with nothing. There's no... I'm sorry. I was going to say there's no business on it. There is the Sugarloaf Lodge.
The Tiki Bar.
That's part of the lodge. Also, Skydive Key West is on Sugarloaf Key. That is the totality.
There used to be a bat tower.
That was not a business, though.
Fell over. Even that fell over. There isn't. It's not even like Summerland Key, which has a post office.
A gas station.
A liquor store.
Yeah. We got nothing.
We got nothing.
All right, continue.
That's it. I just made a song with Twista. Risky Rap Danger said.
Risky Blunt.
I've been doing shows in front of tens of thousands of people. I've worked with some of the biggest artists in the world. Well, bless his heart and good luck to Risky Blunt.
All right, I Googled Risky Blunt, and...
Are you regretting it?
The first link that comes up is his Twitter. Oh, he's like a super skinny white guy.
He's a barber.
He looks kind of like a barber.
I mean, he just opened the Beards and Beers brews.
He looks like he's about 18 with like a really bad skinny mustache.
I wish him good luck, and I'm glad he didn't burn up.
All right, he has tweeted the Miami Herald article that you just read, which has a picture of him in a Dare shirt. Like
drugs are real expensive. Drugs are, what is, I don't know. It's an anti-drug campaign from the 80s.
Yeah, Risky Blunt. It's supposed to be ironic, but you're just dumb. Hashtag new profile pic, he says.
Hashtag you're not a fan.
The second story is about the Lamborghini. And then his Facebook page. I mean, if I Google Taylor Swift, I don't get her Miami Herald car story first. Let's see how many followers he has on Twitter. 706. Dear Dad, your new Twitter account has more followers in one day than Risky Blunt has in his career, performing for tens of thousands of people.
I haven't burnt up a Lambo yet. Well, let's see how that is.
I mean, it would be on brand.
Dude, I would totally give him the color of his burned up Lambo.
Dad's new alt Twitter account is @CarColorNamer. You tweet him pictures of cars, and he makes up colored
I'm feeling
names.
a little boomer about this now.
I think it's hilarious.
I think it's a bit boomer.
Whatever. You're not a boomer.
Why do people care what colors I'm assigning to their car names, or the other way around? Names I'm assigning to their car colors.
Porn Stash is a really good color name, and I think you're hilarious.
You may be artificially supportive.
No. I'm biased, maybe. I like you. I think you're pretty nice.
Supportive. I believe it's supporting.
All right. Hit us with story number 2.
Number 2 is shorter. I'm going to abbreviate a little bit.
Okay.
Here's what happened. On Thursday morning, a Miami Lakes man was freediving for lobsters off the ocean side of Key Largo, right? That's the south side. Without a dive flag, which is you're not allowed to do. You're supposed to have a dive flag, one of the red with the diagonal white, so that boats don't run you over.
Yep.
Florida wildlife and conservation officers who were in plain clothes pulled up to him in their boat while he was in the water and turned on their blue flashing lights and identified themselves as FWC police. Rosado, our perp, got into his kayak and rowed down a residential canal to get away from the officers. So his kayak being chased by Launch.
He fled in a kayak.
Launch is like, we cannot idle this slowly. We're passing him all the time. He's like,
down a canal, which dead ends. The canal ends.
Always dead end at land, and you can't, After multiple commands to stop, our perp exited his kayak at a homeowner's residence.
I think they're just like, come on.
And Ferris Buellered it through a couple of other residential backyards, said investigator William Thompson, one of the officers involved in the bust. The FWC officer driving the boat dropped off Thompson, who caught our perp after a brief chase through the neighborhood, located at mile marker 95, so it's Upper Keys.
Yep. Oh, it's way up there, yeah.
He was charged with having 2 undersized wrung lobster tails in his shorts pockets.
I forgot that the lobsters were in his pockets.
Yeah. You're not allowed to separate the tails from the lobsters until you are on land. Yeah. Because you have to have the lobsters there to be measured separately from the tails, right? Yeah. Lobsters have to have a long enough tail and be big enough themselves. And if you just take the tails...
Yeah, the middle body part is a thing that has to be measured.
That alone is illegal, even if it were proper size.
Yeah.
But they're not. 2 undersized.
They're teeny tiny.
And then they found 7 more undersized tails that he discarded during the chase. So he's just flinging lobster tails left and right out of his shorts pockets. And so... Some of the wrung tails were well undersized. One was 1 inch.
They showed a picture of it. It was like the size of your pinky finger.
Like the size of your pinky. You don't catch mini baby lobsters.
Why would you do that?
So the tails have to be longer than 5.5 inches. And the carp has to be 3 inches long, like the shell, right?
The middle part.
The tail's
like
longer.
Body part, yeah.
Yeah, but it's so not even close. The animals must be measured in the water and be brought back to shore whole. So he did none of these things. He was just rummaging around, grabbing
Stuck them in his
lobsters.
Pockets.
Just ridiculous shorts pockets. No wonder he took the tail off, because can't put the whole lobster in there. Anyway, he was taken to jail.
Good.
Yes. So there.
All right, now.
Also, don't try to escape the police in a kayak. Come on, guys, have some pride.
This last story is perhaps the most Florida Keysy story that will ever happen on the podcast. I almost wanted Jared Dad to save this story for
live podcast.
When we do a live show again. It's so good.
But it's so uncertain when we'll do that.
No, that's right. You got to do it. You got to do it.
All right.
Because you think it's done, and then there's a whole 4th act.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip the high headline because it, in typical journalistic fashion, covers too much. Gives you too much. Gives you too much.
Okay, do it. I'm excited.
Okay. At 5:12 p.m. on Thursday, also, last week.
Big day.
Yeah. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office received a report of a man passed out next to his bicycle with a goat along for the ride. I started laughing when they called me, said Deputy Tom Fricky. He had to double-check that he heard it right. Fricky arrived at the Tom Thumb convenience store in,
Big Pine
Key, 30662.
I gotta say, highway. Drunk guy passed out next to a bike with a goat tied to it is the most Big Piney thing. Yeah, if you were like, okay, drunk guy passed out next to a bike, middle of the day, goat tied to the bike, I'd be like, Big Pine?
Yeah. So he found bless you.
Excuse me.
He found a small goat tethered to a bike. Mm-hmm. Both were next to a man sleeping in the grass. Mm-hmm. The goat is about knee high. I mean, it's a miniature goat, so it's adult. Thank you very much. Not a baby goat. I'm not no baby. It's an adult goat, but it looks like a teeny tiny baby. Frankly, there's photos.
Itty bitty goat.
Itty bitty goat. So
it is a cute little goat.
So as Fricky says, he's been He's been on the force for 28 years there. He said he's one of our local homeless drunks. I mean, this is very small town 1950s. So the goat was traced back to the owner, Cindy Cody, but she didn't want to press charges. She just wanted back her goat, which she got 2 weeks ago.
What's the goat's name?
Well, she likes to call him Billy Bob Thornton.
Uh-huh.
But she also, the nickname, of course, is Billy the Kidder. Yeah, it's a 4-year-old little Billy goat. Miniature goat, not Billy. The sheriff's office released the man, since no one was pressing charges. Fricky said he watched the goat theft suspect take off on his bicycle, and the goat owner's friend brought Billy home to enjoy his grass and air conditioning again.
Aww.
He likes the air conditioning.
Well, don't we all? It's hot here.
It's hot. So Cody, the owner, knows the man who took Billy. She has hired him to do odd jobs around her home for about 10 years, which is probably why she didn't press charges.
Yeah.
Fricky said the man didn't appear intoxicated, only sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
But Cody said there's more to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Gwen. She says Billy came home drunk.
Billy the goat.
She says his eyes were so dilated yesterday, they didn't look normal at all. Now, goats do have square pupils.
Square pupils.
So,
Well, rectangular.
Miss Cody could have just, noticed that for the first time
No,
in 2
don't
weeks.
gaslight her. Don't
just saying.
gaslight her. That goat was drunk. Keep going.
She made some calls. Look, the police aren't investigating this. The owner, Ms. Cody, made some calls Thursday and was told the goat was used by several men as a prop for panhandling. Billy was gone from 11:45 a.m. until about 6 p.m. So they're like, oh, how can we make more money? We'll get a teeny baby goat to sit there and evoke sympathy. A little bit more reporting might have unearthed like the signs they had, like, need to take care of my baby goat. Baby goat needs food.
Anything helps.
Yeah. And according to her, they were all over town with the goat, and they made a crap load of money off that goat. She took a photo of Billy sprawled out on the floor,
Aww.
which is in the Miami Herald. And she says on the photo, you can see he's trying to make the ground stand still because he's drunk.
Poor Billy.
It was spinning. Sean McGrotty, the friend who volunteered to go looking for the goat when Cody called, said it was a little drunk, a little tipsy. They'd been giving him beer. Come on, guys.
Don't give beer to animals.
Yeah. Billy was looking good on Friday, Cody said, so everything's fine. She wasn't upset about the pet theft, especially since Billy was back safe as home. It's just a normal day, she said.
I'm sorry.
Pine Key.
If someone stole my guaco man for 6 hours, gave him beer, made a bunch of money off him, and then the cops had to bring him home, I would press charges.
You don't live in a weird place.
Big Pine is... Well, yeah.
I mean, it's a rougher place.
I like Big Pine. It's not that it's rougher so much as it's like... It's much more kind of rustic. Like, there's people fully off the grid on Big Pine.
Yeah. That's true. Like water from their roofs and
cisterns and solar panels and generators and stuff. Yeah.
Guns.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, if you followed my like Jen runs every road in the Keys, that's where there were a lot of roads with like makeshift signs that are like, "We will shoot you if you come past." There was one with like a crutch tied to a tree and then a sign tied to the crutch. It was like, "We shoot trespassers." And I was like, great, not doing the rest of that road.
And
done.
the maps are like, this is a public road. And you're looking at it going, no, it's not.
Not anymore.
No.
It's a little more old school.
So Billy the Kidder is an excellent story, especially for Big Pine. I mean, it is a much more libertarian place than Key West would be. Key West is a city, and they have their city police, and it's a much more regimented place, right? They even try to regiment the chickens unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
But Big Pine is kind of live and let live. This is on par.
Indeed.
They made a crap ton of money off that goat.
I think the story that we did at the live show with the naked guy chased by the bees.
Bees.
I think that was on Big Pine too.
Oh, it was absolutely. It was by the Winn-Dixie.
Yeah.
Yeah, or started by the Winn-Dixie.
That's right. It ended behind the tackle shop.
Yeah.
The bait and tackle.
Probably also next to the Tom Thumb. It's all.
That's right. That's a small place.
That is downtown Big Pine.
But Jared Dad exaggerates. There's not a downtown Big Pine. There's just Route 1 that goes through, and then there's a few stores there.
They have a traffic light, Jen.
It is one of few traffic lights in the Lower Keys, and they
17 miles to the next one.
Yeah. When we bought this house, and actually it was when we rented here. So we rented on the same key that we're on now, and we're like, okay, we're gonna go up to Big Pine Key to go grocery shopping. So you get onto Route 1, you turn right. And then quickly you see a big billboard that's like Winn-Dixie, Big Pine Key, left at the next light, which is 22 miles.
It's 22 miles, like far.
Yeah.
You've forgotten all about it.
Did we miss the light? I'm like, no, man, it's real far.
There is no light.
Yeah. There's no light.
Yeah.
It is the only stoplight that changes. Like there's a couple blinky stoplights.
Yeah, that's right. Outside of fire stations, for example, or just sort of
there's a few
caution ones. Yeah.
It's the only one that changes between Key West and the 7 Mile Bridge.
That goes
in like 50 miles.
Red, yellow, green.
It's the only one that goes red, yellow, green. Yeah.
50 miles. It's in the middle of a 50-mile stretch.
Yeah, from the 60-mile stretch. You get on the 7 Mile Bridge.
Oh, and then to Marathon is the other end.
Yeah, the
side.
marathon end of the 7 Mile Bridge. That's like to Stock Island, right outside of Key West. The only red, yellow, green stoplight is the one in Big Pine.
Yeah.
The other instructions that we can give you to get to our house is like,
That's
get
right.
on Route 1, enter the Florida Keys. At the first single blinky light hanging over the middle of the road, turn left.
Yeah.
It's 117 miles, but you will get to a single blinky light hanging over the road, and
Yeah.
that's us.
It's by the Tiki Lodge there.
Yeah,
Tiki Hut.
by the Tiki Hut. I mean, Tiki Hut doesn't help very much,
No,
but
there's
single
a lot
blinky
more
light does.
Tiki Huts.
All right, well, dear Dad, I forgive you for giving the dogs coconuts that got
they
me
kind
mosquito
of
bites in
I was-
uncomfortable places last night,
I have explanations.
and I have itchy spots
Oh. And a sledge.
and a little more practice with the garden tools.
I'm a little worried.
Well, everyone, please send us positive, calming, healthy vibes. And until next week, don't bite anyone unless they ask you to.
That's right.
Bye.
Bye.